What's up, YouTube, and welcome to the Variety Pack. I am your host, Derek Andrew, and we are here for episode 2, the Death of Slim Shady review. Now, this is my pre-video where I'm gonna just give you a quick summary of how I'm feeling, how excited I am. The album just dropped. I'm ready to listen to it. Doesn't show any of the features. I do know that Skylar Grey is supposed to be on it. I have heard that Jid is supposed to be on it. I haven't heard much of Jid. I know he's a big up and coming artist, or he's been doing his thing for a while. And I've been meaning to get to his content so I can give a good listen to it. But I've heard nothing but great things. So I'm excited to hear what he does on this album. I am a big fan of Eminems and Skylar Grey together. I know a lot of people do not like that, but I am a big fan of it, so I'm definitely excited to hear what they do on this album. I'm excited to see who else might be on the album, and see where this album takes us. I know Eminem put out a PSA earlier saying to listen to it in sequential, I believe that's the word, order. So just track 1, 2, 3, go in order, because it's a conceptual album and you don't want to listen to it out of order. So I am extremely excited for this album, and I got to tell you, I'm 38 years old, so I've been around since Slim Shady LP, Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem show, and there hasn't been this type of feeling on an Eminem rollout before, I don't think. Maybe Eminem show and Marshall Mathers LP, those were big rollouts, but I don't think they were anything like this. Simply because of the promotion that he's got going on and the concept that he has. So I'm definitely excited. I believe the general consensus is it's going to be one way or another. It's either going to be one of his greatest albums of all time or an absolute flop. I have all the confidence in the world in Marshall and his skill, and the fact that he's been working on this album for 3.5 years tells me that he wanted to put out a masterpiece, and I'm beyond excited to listen to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started listening to it, and when I am done, I will give you'll see the review right after this. I'll let you know my exact thoughts, and then I will also be doing a reaction and breakdown to each track. So about to get started, and I'll see you on the other side. I hate you, Marshall. I swear to God, I hate you. Oh my God, I love you. If you know, you know. Well, I am officially done with listening to the album. I have actually listened to the album from front to back probably about 5 or 6 times, no lie. I wanted to give it a full listen, give it all my attention. First time I actually tried to listen to it, I was listening to it on my TV, trying to record breakdowns, but I didn't have enough storage on my phone, so that didn't go too well. So I ended up listening to the whole thing on my TV, but it wasn't the same. So as soon as I was done listening to it on the TV, got in my car, probably about 1 in the morning, drove around, listened to it again, and I definitely got a much better feel for it at that point in time. And since then, I've listened to it again from front to back probably 3 or 4 times. So I got a very, very good feel for it. I know exactly where I rank it, exactly what I think about it, and that's actually what I'm about to go over with you guys right now. I'll just tell you straight off the bat, I think it is a phenomenal album. I'll let you know where it's ranked at the end of my review, but I just want to give you some points here I have written down as to why I think it is a phenomenal album. And yes, I like to write down my stuff because I don't like to try to go off the head and I end up forgetting talking points, especially something of this caliber, because Eminem has been such a huge staple in my life, a huge influence on me For those who don't know me, I do music. I rap. I love writing rhymes. I know looking at me, you probably wouldn't think that, but yes, just like everybody else in this world, I rap. But it's something I take very serious, something I love to do, and something I take a lot of pride in. And a big influence, the biggest influence for that has been Eminem. So anytime he drops a project, I am all ears, pretty much, unless my kids need anything or we have something going on with the family, everything else comes to a stop, because I want to give it my full attention. And again, when this album dropped, it came to a stop and I gave it my full attention. And these are the points that I wanted to make as to why I believe it is a phenomenal album. So, point number one, straight off the bat, the nostalgia factor. This might not hit for everybody, especially the younger generation, but if you've been around like I have since Slim Shady LP, and I even listened to Infinite, and I listened to all his underground tracks that I could find back then, all his old freestyles, his 97 Rap Olympic freestyles, anything I could get my hands on back then that was Marshall Mathers content, I did. This was back in the Napster, Kazaa, LimeWire days. So we didn't have YouTube back then, or maybe we did, but it wasn't like now. But yes, I downloaded every single thing that I could that was Eminem. And so I've been an Eminem fan since then. And so the nostalgia on this album is off the charts, starting with the first single, Houdini, with the Paul Rosenberg skit. You know from day one that he's been having Paul Rosenberg skits on a lot of his albums, and it just takes you back to that first one. And Houdini, everybody talked about it when it first came out. It's old school. The video takes you right back to Without Me. It's got the same feel as Without Me, Real Slim Shady, My Name Is, We Made You, Just Lose It. Has that feel, and it just takes you back to them old school Eminem days, Slim Shady days. Other parts of nostalgia, the Ken Kniff, bringing Ken Kniff back is always a great hit with Marshall Mathers and Eminem fans. Brand New Dance, which, according to Guilty Conscience 2, was recorded in 2004. I'm assuming that the third verse, I think he mentions Caitlyn Jenner in that verse, so he probably added that verse or a couple other things, but according to Guilty Conscience 2, it was recorded in 2004 for Encore, and it makes sense because it does sound like it belongs on that album. Now, personally, Encore is my least favorite project for Marshall. It does have some great tracks on it, but there has to be a album that you like the least from his catalog, and for me, that one's it. But either way, it still takes you back in time to those first 5-6 years of Marshall Mathers and Slim Shady, and it does a great job just putting you in that time capsule. Having the Shady voice go in and out throughout the project, that was a great touch, and different callbacks. In Guilty Conscience 2, he brings up, his freestyle. He goes where he said, met a kid named Greg with a wooden leg. Took it off, beat him over the head with a peg. Go to bed with a keg, wake up with a 40. I'm not going to get into all that. Y'all know it if you know it. But it's a classic freestyle, so if you haven't heard it, go look it up. But there's a callback on Guilty Conscience 2 to that. Just love all these callbacks. Another big piece of nostalgia for me, having Bizarre on the album. Whether you love it or hate it, it takes you back. I just think of Amityville. That track, one of Marshall's best tracks of all time. But Bizarre, you didn't know who Bizarre was then, and when you first heard him, you're like, what the heck did I just listen to? And it's the same thing on this album. I'm pretty sure the newer generation who don't know Bizarre, when they heard that verse on Antichrist, they were probably thinking the same exact thing that we thought on the Marshall Mathers LP. But yes, nostalgia is my first talking point. Love the nostalgia of the album. Talking point number 2, another killer intro. Kamikaze had Ringer, Music to Be Birded By had Premonition, and this one had Renaissance. Just right off the bat, jump right into it, drop the beat, start spitting the bars. And it's a top-notch verse. The rhyme schemes on there, different punchlines, just top-notch. Marshall Mathers, punch you in the mouth. This is what we're in for. Get ready and buckle up. And it didn't let up from that moment on. Number 3, the storytelling. I mentioned it, Guilty Conscious 2. One of the greatest storytelling tracks from Eminem that I've ever heard. I mean, and he's a top 2 storyteller. I would say him and Nas are the best storytellers in hip hop. Yeah, I mean, Kendrick's great, Jay-Z is great, Tupac was great, but those two, to me, what they did, Eminem with Stan, Darkness, Kim, the Guilty Conscious 2, what Nas has done on Rewind, and I Gave You Power, other tracks, like their storytelling is second to none to me. And Guilty Conscious 2 was just further proof of that. And then on top of it, the music is so cinematic. Like, I am literally praying that they make a video for that track. Don't know if they will due to some of the content on there, but it is a video for that track would be video of the year, hands down. But moving on, Eminem, my next talking point is that Eminem's always putting on new talent. This time he did it with Babytron, Jid, and Easy Mill. Yes, Easy Mill is his artist, so of course he's going to put him on. But not only did he give him a verse, he gave him 2 verses and the hook. The Babytron track, Toby, was actually Babytron's track. It wasn't Eminem's track. It wasn't for this album, but Eminem heard it. I believe Lyrical Lemonade or Cole Bennett played it for him. Eminem heard it, said, I love it, I want it on my album. And that's huge for an artist like Babytron. And Jid, having Jid on the album, like I said in my pre-video, I'm not too aware of Jid's catalog and content, but I know I've heard nothing but great things about him, and he did not disappoint. Amazing verse. Definitely kept up. Well, he definitely did his thing. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Marshall's always just putting on new talent, and I love that about him, respect that about him. Number 5, even what could be low points on the album, they turn into great moments. Road Rage. When I first heard it, I was like, I don't know about this hook. This might be a skip for me every now and then, but no. First 2 verses are pretty good, and then, I think it's 2 verses. But either way, there's a skit right in the middle where Slim is telling Marshall, I'm dyeing our hair. And then it gets into the whole politically correct, and he's telling his point, like, yes, I am pro everything, but this is how I feel, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, it switches up, and you hear the Juvenile Ha remix from Marshall, or from Slim Shady, I should say. And it's just turns into a freaking great moment in the album. Same thing with Bad One. Bad One was one of those where I'm like, I might skip this one. It's definitely grown on me the more I've heard it. But when I first heard it, I was like, I might skip it. And then when I got to the 3rd verse, the first time I heard it, I was blown away. I'm like, okay, this is another top-notch verse from M, and I'm not skipping this track. But yeah, so even what could be low points turn out to have great moments in them. Number 6, Marshall always shouts out the pioneers and people that paved the way for him and influenced him, like Big Daddy Kane, Pac, Big, Redman, Method Man, You God, Jizza, and Nas, just to name a few. Always doing that, and I love and respect that about him. Always giving homage to the ones that deserve it. Next one, the deep cuts, which no one saw coming. Temporary. I know a lot of people did not want Skylar Grey on the album, and I have not really heard many complaints about the track with her on it, because that dedication to Haley, I have a daughter, and that hit home big time. Might have been some dust in the air whenever I first heard that track, and every time I heard that track after that. But yeah, and then Somebody Save Me. The world needs more tracks with Eminem and Jelly Roll of that nature, that type of tone and that type of seriousness. It's, man, that music just touches your soul. At least it does me. And I know there's a lot of other people who loved it just as much. So great deep cuts on the album that kind of take a break from the Slim Shady style of it and just show you Marshall Mathers. And my final point, going back to what I was talking about with Jid absolutely killed it. But Eminem, his verse on Fuel is a top 5 verse from Eminem, hands down. And my top 5 verses from Eminem, just so you know where I rank it with it, his verse on Medicine Man, his verse on Best Friend, his verse on Psychopath Killer, his second verse on Fine Line, and then this one. What he did there with the whole P. Diddy scheme, spelling out rapper. Oh, did he forget a P, did he? Like, pfft, absolutely ridiculous. And then when you think like, wow, that's one heck of a scheme. Nobody's gonna come up with that. That's like a battle rap type of bar. And he's just killing it with the cadence. All of a sudden, hits you with the alliteration. That was just mind-blowing. So everything about that verse, from start to finish, the cadence, the delivery, the schemes, the alliteration, hands down, a top 5 verse from Eminem. And I don't know what track is my favorite on here, man. The whole, I read someone, a comment on YouTube where someone said those 4 tracks have got to be like the best 4 tracks in any album that they've heard, excuse me. It starts with Evil, Lucifer, Antichrist, and then Fuel. Those 4 in a row, I'll put them up against anybody's 4 in a row on their album, because I agree with that guy. That was such a great 4-track run. So don't know what my favorite track on the album is yet, but it's great to finally have this album out. Loved it, absolutely loved it. I don't know where I rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, but as far as Eminem's albums go, I have it as his 3rd best of all time. For me, number 1 is always going to be Marshall Mathers LP. Just, you can't, what he did on that album, it can't be topped. Just never going to be topped. The closest he got to it was his next album, Eminem Show. Those 2 will never, ever be matched by him. I'm sorry, like, technical skill-wise, this album is better than those 2, but those 2 have a certain feel to them due to where he was in life, everything going on, all the turmoil, drugs, all the hunger. He was finally getting seen, wanting to make a name for himself, knew that this was his moment. It was just a perfect mixing pot of everything coming together, and he took full advantage. And that's the only thing that he's never going to be able to capture again, with those raw feelings and emotions he had back then. That's the only reason why he can't match it. Because, like I said, technically, he's on a whole different level than back then. His cadences, timing, delivery, rhyming, his wordplay, everything is above what it was back then. But people don't realize that, and they don't appreciate it because he's not connecting with them as much back then, because it's not as emotional. It's not as emotion driven as it was back then, because he's not going through all that he was back then. But this album is definitely as close to it as possible in my eyes. So I got Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem Show, and Death of Slim Shady. And you can argue it, you can do whatever you want. It's your opinion. This is my opinion. Either way, I think the majority of everybody is happy and glad that this album came out. I think it surpassed everybody's expectations. Of course, there's going to be haters. I see plenty of people who are like, oh, this album's garbage, it's trash, Marshall needs to hang it up, he hasn't been good since then, blah, blah, blah. go listen again, or don't even try to listen, because that tells me you don't pay attention. Because if you really paid attention, you'd know that he ain't put out a trash album. To me, like, even Encore wasn't trash, but that's his worst album to me. Relapse is after that, but Marshall Mathers LP2, Revival, even Kamikaze, The Music to Be Murdered By, all insanely great when it comes to lyrical content. But it is what it is. I'm happy with this. Definitely glad for the album. Again, go listen to the album if you haven't, and show love to the artist. Go like and subscribe to Eminems' page. If you like my content, please like and subscribe. Sorry this video took so long, but hopefully you stuck with it and you appreciate the talking points that I had, because I really did a deep dive in this album and I absolutely love it. I'm going to try to do breakdowns for each song. Like I said, I'm new to this. I'm new to YouTube. Don't have all the equipment that other people have. Doing everything straight from my phone, but I'm gonna make it happen, and hopefully y'all tag along with me on this journey. Again, appreciate everything, and I will see you on the next episode. Take it easy.